part 1 of this series, I looked at whether Luke records Mary's genealogy instead of Joseph's. There is also a less common idea that Mary's genealogy is recorded in Matthew instead. So is the genealogy in Matthew Mary's instead of Joseph's? Matthew writes, "Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, by whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah." The argument states that the Gospel of Matthew was written in Aramaic first, before being translated to Greek, so therefore the Aramaic version should be more correct. As a side note, one of the dialects of Aramaic is Syriac. Both terms are often used interchangeably when referring to these manuscripts. So what does the Aramaic version of this text say? Proponents of this argument state that the original Aramaic word used for husband can also be translated as father. So therefore, the Joseph in this verse is not Joseph her husband, but is actually Mary's father, whose name also happens to be Joseph. I know, right? They also claim that this solves the problem of having only 41 generations, which I discussed in part 2b. Remember, Matthew said that there was a total of 42, however only 41 names are on his list. Now, if we count this Joseph as Mary's father instead, and then we insert Mary as the next generation, we now get a total of 42 names. The problem is, there's no real smoking gun. A number of translations of the Aramaic Bible render the word in this verse as husband or guardian, but not father. The online translation at peshitta.org uses the word kinsman. The translator also makes an interesting footnote. He writes that the original word means protective male. It is unclear whether the text refers to Miriam's father or to her husband. Furthermore, if we look up the original word in an Aramaic lexicon, it provides 3 definitions: husband, person, man. So this argument that the original word must have meant father is inconclusive at best. As mentioned before, some argue that Matthew was originally written in Aramaic, the language of Jesus, so therefore it is superior and has the correct reading. Many scholars doubt this view. Few today accept this. Although Matthew has Semitisms, much evidence suggests it was first composed in Greek. If our Greek Matthew is a translation, it ought to be easy to demonstrate this linguistically. A book the size of Matthew's would afford all manner of evidence that it was translated into Greek from a Hebrew original, if this were the case. Yet it has often been remarked that the Greek Matthew reads like an original. There is no longer any doubt that Greek was the language in which all the parts of the New Testament were originally written, although Aramaic Christian texts may have circulated in the period before our Gospels. Now, in part 1, I discussed whether Luke records Mary's genealogy. The same problems with that idea also apply here. Why would Matthew record Mary's genealogy? We've gone over this in previous videos. The Messiah must descend from the tribe of Judah. Jewish tribal lineage is transferred through the father, not the mother. So if we need to determine who the Messiah is, we need to look at the father's genealogy. For this purpose, Mary's ancestry is irrelevant. If Matthew is going to do something completely out of the ordinary and record a Jewish woman's genealogy, then this action begs for an explanation. And just like Luke, Matthew does not provide one. Both Matthew and Luke specifically point out a number of times that Joseph is from the line of David. Yet neither author explicitly mentions Mary's tribe. The evidence indicates that both Matthew and Luke intended to present Joseph's genealogy, not Mary's. New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman writes, "We have seen that Matthew and Luke present different genealogies of Jesus. Readers over the years have tried to reconcile the differences, for example by claiming that Matthew gives us Joseph's genealogy and Luke gives us Mary's. The problem is that both genealogies are explicit, they are of Joseph. So in concluding these videos on Matthew's genealogy of Jesus, what have we got? Missing names, groups of 14 that don't add up, 2 different lists of ancestors, an adopted Messiah, and numerous apologetics attempting to explain these concerns. Personally, I believe the easiest answer is that Matthew and Luke were writing independently of each other, and that trying to harmonize the two will only cause more problems. Even Luke himself admits that there were many other narratives of Jesus floating around during his day, but he set out to create an account that he believed was the most correct. Do these genealogies blow you away as something inspired and preserved by an all-knowing, all-powerful God? Thanks for watching.